Hi, everyone. We are so excited about this episode. Of course, we're always excited about our episodes, right, Jen?
Absolutely. We are
Yes,
love
we're
them all.
passionate. Yeah, we're passionate about all of them. But today, what we're really going to be covering is we're going to be kind of reviewing over our first season on Modern Sages. We're going to go over our basic topics. And when we were laying this all out in the beginning and preparing what shows we were going to do, we were really trying to think about how could we approach this brick by brick? How could we create a solid foundation with our listeners on how to perceive life in a different way, a heart-centered way, as multidimensional beings? And what does that look like? Really just set that foundation down, that solid foundation for our fans and for our listeners, for our friends and family. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be reviewing over our favorite, parts of the last 12 episodes. This is our 13th, so 12
Can you
episodes,
believe
right, Jen?
that? I cannot believe that we've already
Yes.
hit 12 episodes. That's so exciting.
Welcome to Modern Sages Podcast.
I'm Jen Gilbreth.
And I'm Candace Coons.
With over 25 years combined, we have delivered messages from beyond,
explored ancient healing wisdom, and integrated these profound teachings into our everyday life.
We are passionate about creating new ways of being human in the modern age by integrating the wisdom of the past with the present and coming into remembrance of who we truly are.
Are you ready to change your relationship to life itself? If the answer is yes, your journey begins now. Yes.
Before we jump in, as always, we wanted to talk about our favorite tea blend that we have come up with over this 12-week area. And so we wanted to talk about Hibiscus and Rose.
Yes, this has become my favorite tea because, first of all, I love anything rose. But rose petals have such strong properties, medicinal properties. They help reduce anxiety. They help with digestion. They help soothe menstrual cramps, of all things. And they help soothe a sore throat. And this last couple of weeks, I had a little bit of a cough. And so I really leaned in on rose petal. But I remember when we had Sarah come on, who is the master herbalist, our Maui medicine woman. She paired rose petal with jasmine, which is fantastic. It's the ultimate feminine tea. But what I love to pair rose petal with is hibiscus, because hibiscus on its own can be a little bit strong. But hibiscus has such a wonderful flavor, and it has so many amazing medicinal properties. It helps. I wrote down some of the things here. It soothes sore throat. It helps with high blood pressure, helps lower cholesterol, assists people with weight loss. And I noticed if I put 2 parts of rose petals in my tea bag, which means 2 spoonfuls, and then I put 1 spoonful of the hibiscus, it's the perfect balance for me. It doesn't one doesn't overpower the other. And again, it still makes this beautiful red feminine tea.
Yes.
And so that has been my go-to lately.
I love the fact that you even have found out what works for you in the sense of even the taste of it. It kind of goes back even into how all of the herbs are so beneficial. But the one that we first talked about in our first episode was raspberry leaf. And I still feel like that's one of my go-tos. I love that. But for me, I am not as big of a spearmint person as you are. So you love to have that extra spearmint. And I'm like, I'll put just a little bit in. It has a good little kick, but I don't like having too much of it. I like having it taste a lot more like the red raspberry than the spearmint. So it's always a preference of, what works for you. And if maybe one of the herbs that you have isn't really tasting that well, what can you pair it with that also has amazing benefits? But if you need to add in a little bit of, organic honey or agave or monk sweetener, there's so many different things that you can add in to bring in the benefits, but still allow you to enjoy what it is that you're drinking. And that's why I love herbs, and what I've been learning a lot about and just implementing this into my life is like, your tea is it's like a herbal, like a supplement. It can be that same space. It has a lot of, antioxidants. There's so much good nutrients in there. There's so many benefits, and a lot of them tend to have the same benefits in those ways with additional things, but a lot of it is the antioxidants. It's a lot of high in vitamins, it's there to help you. If we're using it the proper way, it can be such a beautiful tool that we have.
It is, because a lot of people think about herbs and the medicinal properties, but they don't realize that they're actually supplementing their diet with additional nutrients, micronutrients, and help reduce inflammation and all of the things that herbs do across the board. And then each one has its own little special thing, has its own special gifts that it brings to the table. And it's so important for people to reincorporate herbs into their lifestyle every single day. This needs to become a norm because Pachamama made this for us to use on a regular basis. So, of course, this is why we always talk about it. This is why we always introduce a tea of the week when we do our podcast, because if you can start there, you don't have to take, the herbal tinctures, and you don't have to take the pills if you don't want to. But if you could just have that herbal tea every day, that is a wonderful place to start. And where we started at the beginning of our journey with our podcast, we were talking about how we are multidimensional beings. And, a lot of people, they've heard this term before, especially if you've explored the New Age movement and spirituality. But a lot of times people don't know what that looks like. It's like, well, how do you move forward with that awareness, with that remembrance of who you really are, recognizing that you're a multidimensional being, that there's nothing unholy about being human, and you embrace this physical experience. And this is one of the ways that we incorporate this into the multidimensional self, because, Pachamama is a live, intelligent being. And a lot of the Aquarian age, as we move forward, this awareness is going to become stronger and stronger again, even though the ancient indigenous cultures were very aware that Pachamama, Mother Earth, was alive. But we went to sleep. It was almost like during the dark ages and over the last 1,000 years, people have really become numb to this realization. And part of that return is not only becoming aware of it, but also using her wisdom, using all of her healing properties for our journey here to help take care of our physical bodies. But also Pachamama is so good to bring us back to our spiritual,
absolutely
true self as well, because just her beauty and spending time in nature will help you reflect and go within and reconnect to who you really are. So using her as a resource every day, a wise woman that you go to, a wise being that you connect with every day, is a way that you can incorporate this lifestyle with this awareness of being awake and that you are a multidimensional being.
I just think that's so beautiful, is remembering that. And we've also discovered how we are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which means that as we find that balance, we compared it to the 4 legs of the table, as we find that balance in life, it seems like it's a never-ending battle, almost trying to find that balance. But that's part of the human journey, is like,
that's part of the adventure.
We can't give up if, we're not doing one thing, or we could be really good at taking care of our body, and then all of a sudden something happens and we're feel totally disconnected from our body. And it's easy to make wrong. But when we can remember that we came here to learn all these things, this is part of the dream. It's part of us being able to experience this life. It just shows how beautiful being human can be, even if it feels, discouraging at times as well. And so, finding that balance is knowing that we have physical needs, we have spiritual needs, emotional needs, and mental, is like, we don't need to be ashamed of one or the other, is we are here completely to experience all of it. Our soul chose to come here. It chose to experience what we're experiencing. So instead of making it bad and wrong, it's pulling back and saying, okay, I'm here. It can be so easy to get caught in the drama of life, which is why it's so important to pull back and to see, okay, regroup, remember I'm a spirit here in a physical body. I'm here learning something. I'm here experiencing something, but what I'm experiencing doesn't define me. And it's
Yes.
remembering who you are, because it's so easy to forget. It's
Oh
so
gosh.
easy.
Yes, Jen. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think that a lot of people get discouraged. It's like, gosh, I felt like I got it. And then I just fell right back in. And that's usually what happens. It's kind of a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of process. Evolution is, and
Yeah.
remembrance and expansion. And so being gentle with yourself and patient with
Yeah.
yourself is part of the journey. And, coming and having sisters and brothers who remind you of who you really are. Just like this show reminds our audience who you really are. You cannot use your story or the things that have happened to you to measure your worth. You are way bigger than that. And so coming back in that remembrance, we need people to remind us every day
Yeah.
while we're here. And the other thing that came to my mind as you were talking is we're all faced with gifts. We all have gifts and we all have challenges. And as far as physical challenges that tied in with my emotional, mental, and spiritual well being was for me, and this will tie us back into the physical leg, was an eating disorder. Really struggling with a serious eating disorder for many years. And I had body dysmorphia. So even to this day, if I'm under a lot of stress, I will look in the mirror and I can't trust what I see in the mirror. It's impossible to gain 30 pounds overnight, but that's what I see. Like, I don't even see what I really look like compared to other people. And so there are certain triggers and ways that my brain has been wired. And me coming into awareness spiritually and saying, that, first of all, I can't measure my worth according to my challenges. What I can do is be respectful and loving to my temple body. So, what can I do today to be loving and respectful to my temple body and to my journey here in this temple body? And that is by incorporating a whole food, plant-based diet and herbs. That's the way I do it. But as soon as I start counting calories, as soon as I start measuring things, those are triggers for me. And that eating disorder, my brain gets triggered. And then all of a sudden, I'm dealing with this additional battle. I start obsessing about food all day. And there's so much more to life than just food and obsessing over calories and body image and all of those things. But that came with the challenge that I was here to experience in this life, which was also connected to depression and anxiety. And so, but that's part of my human journey. It doesn't measure my worth. It's just part of the journey here. And then when I start to figure things out for myself, what works for me and helps me move forward and come back into remembrance faster and have a more joyful, beautiful life, I try to share that with other people so they can overcome those particular obstacles in their life and move forward, because we are multidimensional. There's so much more than that.
I think that's so important to remember is I feel like a lot of us do go through bouts of anxiety or feeling heavy emotions, depression, this heaviness inside. And so I love that you know what works for you. And even myself, this past month has been, it's been a more difficult month emotionally for me, as you know. And even during Thanksgiving, I've been waiting for this part to come back for my juicer and it just hasn't come. So we just got a new juicer. And I can't even tell you, the past 5 days juicing every day has helped me in so many different ways. And, I have all these herbs and these supplements, and I'm trying to get myself back into this space of like, instead of just wanting to lay in bed, it's like, okay, I got to get up and keep going. And not being hard about that is it's part of the human journey. And there's nothing unholy about being human. And I think that's such a beautiful reminder. And, in our third episode, one that we got so much good feedback on was all about what is sexuality really. And I think that it can be so misconceptualized about having pleasure or wanting to have sexual desires or filling that creation space within it's a bad and wrong. It can tend to be a bad and wrong thing or a sinful or a heaviness. And so it's almost exploring in a positive way how the sexual energy within us is that creation. It's that divine destiny that lies within each and every one of us. Yes. And we came here to experience it, not to shame it, but to experience it.
Yeah. And to use it.
Yes.
It's life force energy. And so, and a lot of people don't recognize it. Like you were saying there's been all of these ideas and stories around it. And as we move forward in the Aquarian age, that's another thing that's going to be shifted and healed within us, is being able to understand what sexual energy really is and how you can use that energy. You don't have to be intimate with someone else in order to use that energy for creativity, manifestation, and healing your body. And you can use it with the breath, just by drawing the energy up the spine into your third eye, or drawing an energy into a certain part of your body that is in pain. And so, and a lot of people, they don't realize they can do that is a gift.
Absolutely.
That was given to us to use on a daily basis. And sometimes though, that's when we're talking about a lot of energy, sexual energy or life force energy, but there are individuals that don't have sexual energy. They feel asexual. They don't really feel much of sexual energy at all. And that is okay too. Just because you don't feel it as much as someone else doesn't mean it's not there, hun, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't there, because that energy is the glue that holds creation together. So you are a manifestation of that energy that has been brought into form, into a body. And so even if you don't experience sexual energy exactly like everyone else, it's okay. It's just understanding it at what it really is and using the breath to raise energy in your body through intention. That will still do the same thing for you. It'll still go exactly where it needs to go, and it'll do exactly what it needs to do.
Absolutely. If this is something that's intriguing to you, definitely listen to episode 3.
Yes.
It's such a good episode for sure. I love that. And then, in our other episodes, Candace and I talked about our experience stepping into our own unique spiritual gifts and the ups and the downs and, the positive things as well as the pitfalls, because moving forward into living a heart-centered life in the Aquarian age is not always easy, but it's so worth it. So we both shared our stories, we moved into that direction, and we also addressed the witch wound. And I love that podcast because
me too.
Seriously, we recorded it once. And as we recorded it, it was almost like we were healing this witch wound within us. As we were talking about it, we were moving through emotions. And I was like so excited to have that episode because it was just so real. And then it didn't work. And so then we're like, okay, well, let's give it a week. And then I guess we have to re-record. And it was almost like we needed to do some healing in that area before sharing more about it. Yes. But man, oh man, the witch wound is real. And it has been so beneficial for me to look at that and realize it and then move forward because of it.
Oh man. Yeah. Gosh, we've had to relearn this lesson again and again, Jen, because whenever you're working with spirit, it's not on your timeline. Yeah. You have to work in a space of faith and trust, and you align yourself and then you trust whatever happens. Because I remember when it didn't record and it never happened, like we'd never had that issue.
I was so upset.
We were so sad. And I was like, there has to be a reason. There has to be, because we aligned, we centered, we were on it. There must be a reason. And I completely agree with you. I think that you and I needed to do some more healing with that. And that was really fun. It was really fun to explore that in the month of October. It was just such perfect timing. But also to talk about our journeys, because as people move forward in the Aquarian age as well, we're waking up to our gifts of spirit. And so we're kind of examples for people of what that looks like, to live aware of your gifts of spirit, to use them on a daily basis, aware that you're a multidimensional being, and explore this multidimensional being within ourselves and do the healing work, do all the things. And so I think it was so good for us to share our story, because I think that a lot of people will resonate on a certain level with what you experience and what I experienced, the challenges, the beautiful things that happened as well, and everything in between. I think that it'll be inspiring for people, because it'll say, okay, we need to normalize this, because gifts of spirit, everybody has gifts of spirit. It's just like a muscle. You either use it or you don't, but it's still there. And a lot of people are being activated with these gifts of spirit. And when that happens, we all must face the witch wound. And because there's a lot of programming in the collective consciousness about what that means. And learning how to trust yourself, because we were told we couldn't trust ourselves for thousands of years, that it was evil, that we needed to give our power over to someone else who was more righteous, more aligned, instead of recognizing that we are all connected to the divine within us, and we can strengthen that connection and trust ourselves and use our gifts of spirit. And not only is it not evil, it's natural.
Yes. I love it.
It's natural.
Yes.
It's who we are. It's part of who we are.
Absolutely. It is. And it's embracing that and honoring that. And it was so interesting, because the first week I went live with mine, and then you're like, how are you feeling? And I was like, so worried the whole week. And then when it was your time, you were feeling that same thing, So there is power with sharing and speaking up and sharing your story and moving forward and finding ways to bring courage to other people in that sense as well. So I feel like it helped both of us heal a lot in those ways as well, which was absolutely beautiful. And then we had Sarah on, as we talked about. She was all about the herbs and teaching more about how to find proper supplements to use, as well as how it's beneficial for her. She's such a great example. Absolutely. Of her kids never even going to the doctors, like even for an antibiotic or anything like that. Like healing everything naturally is just exactly where I want to be. And so I'm like, okay, I need to start striving to make places to get to that point. It was just so cool to see her passion and how things naturally just unfold. And I love, even for her story, and I think that a lot of us have this, is that she was kind of known as the sick kid. She was sick a lot. And it kind of goes to show that sometimes our greatest weaknesses are also our greatest strengths.
Yes.
And even in her story, that came up where that could have been a downfall for her, she turned that into her strength. And I know even with you, with your gratitude and with having a better outlook on your body, you going through what you've gone through, that's also such a great strength that you offer. And so it's just reminding us as well that our greatest weaknesses are our greatest strengths. Yes. And so it's almost looking at that, instead of feeling like a victim in it, is pulling out of that and saying, I'm going to turn this into such a great aspect of who I am. How can I move forward positively in that space?
Oh, yes. And it reminds me too of when we talked to Dana about emotions, because, that is part of your multidimensional self, your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And a lot of people have such a sad relationship with their emotions. They're afraid of feeling bad, or they feel bad for feeling bad, and they don't know how to navigate through their emotions and through their emotional body. And emotions are energy in motion. So just like sexual energy, I think a lot of times emotions are misunderstood, because we want to be emotional. And I remember, you felt this way and I felt this way, but we'd been shamed for being too sensitive throughout our lives. And that was so connected to our gifts of spirit, because we're both empathic and we could feel energy. And when you feel into energy and emotions, that's energy in motion. And not only do you need to come into right relationship with it, but also you want to use that energy to help draw things to your life. When we were talking about the loop of manifestation, of, not only visualizing is important, but you need to feel it. And part of feeling those manifestations of coming into reality are the emotions as well, not just, what does it smell like, taste like? But what do you feel like? How, if you feel the satisfaction, do you feel the joy, the pleasure, this or that you are wanting to draw to your life? And then feeling that gratitude is what completes the circle of manifestation. It's almost like the visualization creates the blueprint, the emotions give it the gas and give it the energy to come out, and the gratitude returns it back into your reality. So you need that loop of energy and emotion in your life. So healing your emotions has many layers to it.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful journey. It's what brings color to our lives. So that's what I love talking to Dana, because she is like the master teacher.
She's very vulnerable about emotions. And I think that it makes me feel a little intimidated sometimes. I'm like, oh man, I don't really feel my emotions like that. And it's a great example to look towards, is knowing that like our emotions are part of this human journey. And we don't have to be shamed about emotions either, but it's finding ways to experience it, express it, and then release it so we don't get stuck in it as well.
Mm-hmm. And usually like when things loop, like when they loop back to you and you're going through something again, okay, you're like, I thought I dealt with this.
I thought this was over. I've done so good.
So much healing around this.
And here it is. Welcome back.
Yeah. And it's because there are layers to it. There are diamonds to retrieve still. And so it's also trusting that process of healing. When you are feeling the repeating of certain emotions that are hard, there's a bunch of amazing emotions too that are fantastic. We forget about that. But when you're dealing with the heavy stuff, if it's repeating and it's coming back, it means that there's something that the soul wants to retrieve from that situation, from that experience. It doesn't measure you. It doesn't say that you're more advanced or less advanced or any of that. It's just that your soul is longing for the full human experience.
Yes.
And it loves to pull out the wisdom and the diamonds of certain things. And spirit is interesting because it'll say, you'll look at it and say, I don't feel like I'm really moving forward, right? I feel like I'm kind of stepped back. But spirit doesn't look at it like that. They're like, if there's any kind of progression, even if it's really hard, then they think you're doing great. Spirit on the other side, you're doing fantastic.
Right.
Even if it's hard, because there's something about it that's creating some kind of change within you. It's opening up your heart. At least that's the potential.
Yes.
In some way, it's opening you up more and by having you face your fears or your shadows. It's causing you to turn yourself inside out, to just keep opening up. Right.
Yeah.
And spirit's like, this is fantastic. And you may be going, this sucks, but spirit's like, she's doing fantastic.
You got it. They're like cheering you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so good. And I think knowing that we're not alone in that process, like you said, spirit's here cheering us on. Our ancestors, they see and they understand. They're aware of that heaviness, but also the joy that comes with it as well. As I love you talked about, there's so many positive emotions as well. And so if we only get stuck on the heaviness, we forget about the lightheartedness, the fun, the playfulness. It kind of goes into generational stuff too, as we only focus a lot on the heavy blocks. But there's also gifts that lie within your spirituality, within who you are, that come down throughout your genealogy. And it doesn't have to always be heavy. And so I love that. That compassion and stepping into that space, which we also heard that from Janelle, who, she definitely faced a lot of fears. She let go of the 3 big things in her life that were kind of what she viewed herself as and how she labeled who she was. And then she moved forward and let those things go to really listen to what it was that she came here, that her soul came here to experience. And it's going to look different. And living a heart-centered life in the Aquarian age is not going to look traditional to someone outside of who you are. They're not going to see the whole reasoning why or understand it all. But that's also part of what it means to reclaim your truth, is to live your truth on your own without having other people fully understand or fully accept it, which is scary as all get out. Trust me. I know.
Yes,
but
it is.
It's so worth it. It's so beautiful. And she, in that podcast with Janelle, was just embracing a heart-centered life and honoring that journey and loving it and making those changes, even if it's scary.
And so courageous.
Absolutely.
You know, she's so respectful, even to the challenges that she's had in the past with individuals or whatever. She's always she's always taken accountability though. She's always saying, look, I'm grateful for those experiences because it made me stronger. It made me more courageous. It made me realize that these are things that I bring up in people or, you know, so I love how she lived such a life of passion and courage. And that was such a great reminder of like what that looks like. And just because it looks easy on the outside does not mean that it was. And so she's a reminder of that too, that if you do have those downturns or you go through, this is all part of the journey. And what's most important is you just stay centered here and keep trusting yourself no matter what. So
absolutely,
yeah, that was such a wonderful show. And then being able to talk about, you know, sacred ceremony and creating sacred space. This is a part of our lives. Yes. Every day, you and I as medicine women, and it really helps us. This is the tools that we use to help bring us back to our true essence, our spirit, when we talk about those 4 legs. And so I feel like over the last 12 weeks, we covered all those 4 legs. We talked about, you know, the physical aspect and bringing that into balance, and the emotional and mental aspect and bringing that into balance. And also ways to remind yourself of who you truly are, bring the spiritual leg back into balance. And so that way you can live a more fulfilling life. You know, that's really at the core of our intention of this podcast, is to assist people to see life differently.
Absolutely.
To live a more full or whole life.
Yes.
So hopefully these are some tools that'll get people started.
Absolutely. So we're going to have a few of our favorites videos and series of the past 12 weeks that we're going to be adding on to this next space. And I can't wait for season 2, which I feel like we're going to definitely be diving deeper into the ancient healing wisdom and implementing all of that and finding ways of being more connected and being able to really embrace who we are in this human experience and honor who we came here to be, with that courage and that passion. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's very dear to both of our hearts. Is we want to talk about what it means to be human in the Aquarian age.
Yeah, this is a hot topic right now, especially after 2020, because everybody was talking about us moving into the Aquarian age. And there's been some astrologists that believe that it happened in 2012 because of the Mayan calendar, and that and the Mayans speaking of the cosmology changes that are happening. But I feel that really the major shift happened in 2020. I almost felt like collectively that we were in the birth canal and in labor that whole year of coming into this Aquarian age.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the Aquarian age, so for those who don't know, is about every 2,160 years, give or take, there is a shift within where the world is in alignment with the zodiac signs. And so we just recently moved into, of course, the Aquarian age, and we just left the Pisces.
The age of Pisces.
The age of Pisces, yes. And so, you know, even just knowing this, it does make a huge difference. It does affect us each and every single day without even us being aware of it. And so even just coming to more understanding of it has been so powerful, and how I cope through every single day, and like subconsciously understanding what the world is shifting into and how we can help bring that shift in a little bit easier.
And I love how this conversation is coming to the forefront, because, you know, even 10 years ago, people weren't talking about these new age concepts, these metaphysical concepts as much as they are today, which again is very reflective of the energy that is coming in now. Because the age of Pisces was, it was kind of a separated or divisive kind of energy, in the sense that our energies were very focused on 3D as opposed to 5D. So a lot of people, when they astrologers talk about, is that we are moving from a time of 3D consciousness into a 5D consciousness. And what does that mean? Well, when you're in a 3D consciousness, you are in your survival instincts. You are all about, survival. Things are separated. Things are dualistic. There is an hierarchy. There is faith, or giving your power over to another, as opposed to going within yourself or being completely self-sustainable.
Instead of relying on someone else's skills or someone else's wisdom, it's almost like it's time for us to find our own wisdom, our own inner self, what we actually think or what we actually feel versus what we've been taught.
During the New Age time that we just went through, it was so, everybody was talking about kind of the separation, like no ego, and kind of shame, a little bit of a body shaming kind of thing going on. To be spiritual, you had to transcend this physical experience. And one of the things we talked about in our last podcast was that there's nothing unholy about being human. In order to even believe that, or to think that you have to earn your way back, is in a sense shaming yourself in this experience about what it means to be human. And that is believing into the idea or the concept that we are separated, which is impossible. We cannot be separated from the divine. The divine is in everything. So when we talk about the multidimensional concept or the multidimensional being, we're talking about the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And I usually compare this to a table, or the four legs of a table, because if you have a table, it's not stable. It's not sturdy. If you have one leg that's shorter than the other, or one leg that is longer than the other, you can't hold life's bounty if you don't establish balance in this human experience. And the Aquarian Age is about integration. It's about integrating this knowing within yourself that you are this eternal being, and you can also live this human existence while being awake and establishing this balance in your life.
I find that to be so true, is like going into the spiritual aspect, since working with people a lot with connecting to their loved ones, we explore a lot about spirituality. And I find it's a common concern of how can I be physical and spiritual, or I have to only be more, you could say like more of the worldly term versus the spiritual. And as I learned this concept of spirit, mental, emotional, and physical, it really brought into this new space of, wow, there can be more than I can be physical and spiritual, and I can be emotional, and I can be mental. I can be all of those things. And not only that, like that's what we came here to experience. And it's not just one or the other. In fact, when we balance all of them, it brings all of it into balance, all of it into remembrance, and it makes us feel more whole and complete.
And you remember we talked about also that there's nothing unholy about being human.
Absolutely.
To go back to what you're saying, like if you were to separate certain things and say, okay, even sexuality is not holy, then you would have to assume that there is this disconnect between the physical and the spiritual. And that is just simply not so. Even scientifically, it's been proven that everything vibrates with energy, even on down to molecular level, that there is no such thing as empty space. We know we're all one. We have this knowing within our hearts. So how could you separate sexual energy from that which is holy? Now, when we talk about like Kundalini energy and the rising of our Kundalini, which is part of that life current or life force energy that moves up the chakras, up the channel, up the spine. When this energy moves up, and especially right now, because we're being downloaded with even more of this frequency, it's almost like if you were to think of a tube At first, it was the size of your pinky,
Uh-huh.
and that's how much energy you're bringing down this channel or in your body, your physical body. Imagine that tube expanding to the size of this chair.
Right.
And the amount of flow of that energy moving through our bodies, through our nervous system, and through our energetic bodies. So there's been a major, major shift. And our Kundalini is rising on a collective level. We're going from that 3D lower 3 chakras, where the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus were the main focus. The individual will, mine, yours, separateness, separation, survival, sexuality, male, female, all of those things. Anything that was dualistic was the main focus at that particular time, which is fine. Absolutely. There's nothing bad about that. But we're moved as the Kundalini rises up into the heart space and up to the upper chakras, that sexual energy is life force energy. And we're going to be increasing that energy that we carry in our bodies. The energy of sexuality is going to come to the forefront. And you can see this collectively happening right now, where people are really hyper-focusing into their sexuality. So not only race and female, male, female, but now all the different genders and all the different focus around this energy of sexuality. Is like we're trying to come to peace with this on some level, because we know that it's not bad. It's something that we need to embrace. And we know this even subconsciously. But a lot of people don't know what that is or how to work with that energy. But it is so important, because we're moving into a time where, in this Aquarian Age, which we started the conversation, episode 1, talking about this shift that we're all going through in the Aquarian Age, where we're shifting from a 3D consciousness to a 5D consciousness, which is a huge journey between the mind and the heart.
Absolutely.
Coming from that heart frequency energy, that Christ consciousness energy, or Buddhahood, or Krishna energy. There's many names for that energy, but basically it's the activation at the chitta, or the activation of the heart. And when we do this, it creates a major shift in us. It's like we're not able to cater into other people's path for us. It causes us to go within ourselves and ask us, what is right for me? What is right in my heart? And then it also activates your sensitivity.
Absolutely.
So, and you've noticed this with your path, because being a spirit medium and coming up, being brought up in a very religious background, where this it was a mixed bag. I mean, some people really accepted this gift and some people didn't. Same thing with me. Some people accepted my gifts and some people don't, that are very religious.
Absolutely.
But it's creating this kind of revolution within our religious framework, because people are like, what used to be okay isn't okay anymore, because people are finding this deeper connection to spirit, and they're knowing that they don't need to go outside of themselves to connect with the spirit. And they're also noticing that the veil is becoming thinner.
We are so connected to that life force energy, and it's all around us. And I remember you talking to me about it, like, well, if you think about this, like if you were to zoom in to this ring and the molecules within this ring, right? It's like you just dive in deeper and it's all this life force energy, regardless of what it is. There's this energy connected to it. And we have the ability to connect into that space to find what we're looking for, or to find what we need. And going back into the religious context is like, we know that God or a higher power, or, you know, whoever it is that we look towards, is full of this life force energy. And so we're not separated from it. In fact, we're all one. We're all in that connection. And so I love that this new age is calling us to really connect within our heart center and to recall that that life force energy that we naturally have in a spiritual context into the physical realm so that we can really create and we can really be in that space, which is all about this creation, this sexual energy, this creation space. And so if you think about it in that context, it all connects together.
Interesting thing is research is showing you cannot selectively numb emotions. When you numb the negative, the painful, you numb the positive. You numb your ability to experience more joy, more peace, more happiness. And so that's the value of saying and really like integrating this idea, all emotions are acceptable. What you do with it matters. What you do with it, how you release it, how you let it out. The time and the space does matter too.
I think that's the important thing, is setting time aside to go back.
Yes.
Because we're so easily able to just push everything down, which then that causes havoc on your body.
It does.
Your emotional state, like your mental, like it affects all four legs of the table. But it's so easy to just push it all down. And then once you push it down, it's going to explode. It's going to explode. And it's going to be worse.
That you don't necessarily want it to, or on the people you don't want it to. It's this idea that emotions are our greatest teachers. If you want to know yourself more, you get to know that emotional body of you. You get to know that, because your emotions will show you what you value. They'll show you the things inside that are calling for love and healing, the things that your soul came to learn. Like there's so much beauty in the emotions.
You can't choose what emotions you want to feel. And it's against how we've been domesticated collectively, because in this age, we're in a consumer society where we feel like we can go to the store and get this or that. We have access to fruits and vegetables and resources from all over the world. So there is kind of this, I think, even maybe subconscious, unconscious pressure on ourselves that we can't just go within ourselves and choose and say, okay, I don't want to feel sad or jealous or angry, but I want to feel happy and joyful and content. It's like, it's two sides of a coin. You can't have one without the other. So the best way to embrace this human experience is to understand this is a condition of being human.
Yes.
It doesn't define you as a being. You are separate from your body, your mind. You are a spirit, but you get to be human this time around. And that comes with the package deal. And so if you want to feel happy, if you want to feel content, if you want to feel peaceful and joyful, you have to embrace all emotion.
Yes.
My grandfather passed away, and I remember being so drawn to what he was experiencing on the other side. And it was almost like I knew exactly what he was going through and what he was feeling and what he was saying without even fully understanding or knowing why I felt that. And it kind of terrified me, because I was like, why do I feel so drawn to this? I don't want to cross over. I'm not ready to go, but I'm so drawn to what's going on. And at such a young age, and I just started reading books about, near-death experiences, what people experienced. And it just kind of has been part of my experience this whole time. Junior high and high school, I started having kind of like, I guess you could say, paranormal activity. I don't really like to call it that, but I would be maybe getting ready in the morning, and all of a sudden the door would swing wide open, and I could feel someone physically, like if you were to close your eyes and have someone walk into the room, you could feel their energy walk in, even if your eyes were closed. It was happening to me, and my eyes were open and there was nobody there. And so it was a little bit intimidating, as you could imagine. I'm like, okay, that's different. That's interesting. And then all my friends, even when I was little, like in junior high and in elementary school, we'd be hanging out or playing, and I'd be like, oh, we can't go over there. There's an old lady there, or there's a kid in a tree here. There's someone here. There's this and this. And I was just always talking about things, and they just thought it was kind of a normal, I don't know, like a normal part of who I was. And even one of my childhood best friends, we hadn't been in communication for a while. And then she reached out and was like, hey, I would love a session. And so she came over and we were just talking and she was laughing. She's like, now that I think about it, you were always talking about this stuff, even at like the age of 6. And we were laughing about that, how it was like in my parents, in the basement that I lived in, not that I lived in, the basement that we had, there was this storage room and we always wanted to play hide and go seek. And I was like, we can never go in there. There's this angry old lady there. And I would always talk about different things like that. And so it was kind of fun to come full circle with her. She was like, this is totally what you've been doing your whole life and not even knowing it.
If you don't really know yourself, that's usually someone who's afraid of true intimacy because they don't even know what you'll find. And I felt like doing my spiritual work, because I got to know myself so deeply and profoundly, all aspects of myself, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, and embrace the wholeness of my power.
Yeah, it almost gives you more freedom to allow someone else into that space.
Yes.
Because you know who you are and you got this. So then they're able to be like a bonus in the fact that helps you really integrate what you're learning also into the physical form as well.
Yeah. And I also, not only am I not afraid to share that, but nothing that they share with me scares me.
Yeah.
It's because I know who they are. It's almost like even if the darkest places and the things they're most ashamed of, whether it be my husband or my friends or the clients that I've worked with, my children, whatever, they feel that safety with me because they know I see them.
Yeah, you do bring that space of unconditional love, acceptance. You see people for who they are, not what they're going through.
Yes.
And you always hold sacred space for that. That's one thing that I love about working with you. And
it's so powerful, right, Jen? Because it's like when people are able to actually talk about and express what they're afraid of or what they're ashamed of or their regrets or their sadness and just get it out.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean anything about you.
Nothing.
But to be able to fully give it permission to be expressed and to be fully felt in a safe space, that is life transforming. I learned that about my spiritual path from myself, and then being able to do that for others has deepened my relationships. It's made them so much more fulfilling, on so many different levels. And I noticed too that my sensitivity and my connection and my relationship to Mother Earth has strengthened. It's like she's a being I speak to. I feel her. I understand her, and I understand like the animal kingdom and the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom. And people don't realize the endless opportunities for connection, just endless opportunities for connection, not just with yourself and your creator and your beloved, but like with every tree that you pass by and every flower and Mother Earth and the animals and people. It's just, you're surrounded and spirit, right? Connecting with spirit on the other side. You just have endless opportunities to connect. You have access to the wisdom of the whole universe inside of you. You don't have to go outside of yourself to connect with the divine that is inside of you. Yeah. But when there's been abuse of power, the way power can manipulate or control is to sever you from your own personal power, which is that connection to the divine, and make you question or not trust yourself and say, you need to go outside of yourself in order to connect with the divine. You can't trust yourself. How do you know you're not being tempted by this dark force or this energy?
That is huge.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like every single person is going to have to come up to this because it needs healing. Yeah. Because you are the manifestation. I am the manifestation of the divine in form. We are children of our creator of all things. There is no greater source of wisdom or power that is outside of us that we don't carry within us.
Absolutely.
So if that were the case, then those who want to control or manipulate you, they're like, well, where's the control? Because if you can create the life you want, if you can connect with spirit and the divine and heal and all of that, then how do I control? And
there's so much out there, especially when it comes to like eating more vegan based or not, or what kind of supplements or when to take them, the best options. I feel like there's so much noise in the world that you can get so caught up in like, oh, this is the new fad, right? Like the keto diet or whatever it is, that it's almost like there's benefits to different things, but also everyone's body, I feel, is different. And so it can be easy. And this is what I struggle with, is it can be so easy to get like caught up in like, okay, everyone says that this is a really good supplement, so I need to take it. But then it's like, but is that really what my body needs? So it can be very easy for, I think, just in general, people who are interested to get like all of the noise outside to kind of like cloud everything over. So it would be good for people to work, I guess, with someone like you who has that knowledge to help give that basis. So then they know, kind of where to get started at.
Yeah. And I think another really, really important aspect when you are choosing the right supplements for you, and it's the reason why I brought up the Dr. Christopher's formulas, is because for the most part, if you go to a health food store, you're going to see a whole row of herbal formulas and tinctures and remedies and things. And it's like, how do you know what's good and what's not? Whether it's organic or not organic, it may not necessarily be the right pick. So here's how you can decipher between a good product and a not good product. If you look at the ingredients on the back and you see a breakdown of the vitamins, the minerals, folic acid, any of those things, it is full of isolated chemicals, meaning that you do not have the plants in their whole form in that formula, even if there's one or two. If there's a breakdown at all of vitamin E in the percentage, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, any of that, it is a product that has isolated chemicals. And when you use isolated chemicals, they have to come with a preservative. So when you look at a product, you want to be reading nothing but the plants: alfalfa, shave grass, lobelia, cayenne pepper, spirulina, nutritional yeast, like the list goes on. That is the only thing that you should read in the ingredients. And that's how you know a solid product that is a whole food for your body, because your body can't assimilate isolated chemicals, because your body needs, like, for example, calcium needs 6 other minerals just to be absorbed. And it isn't just magnesium. The calcium magnesium over the counter became so popular because scientists actually figured out that your body needs magnesium, but it isn't the only one. And the only way that you can get calcium in an organic form, that your body can literally take in all the nutrients and expel the rest, is in herbs like alfalfa.
In the end, we have one bank account of energy in our life. You wake up every day and it's going to be a little different how much you got in your account, and you use it the best you can. And if you're using it to please others or to live unauthentically and have to process that, you're wasting your life.
Well, yeah. And we only have, even I had a session this morning and the woman was talking about who came forward, she passed in her sleep unexpectedly. And she was like, we really don't know how much time we have. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. None of us or our loved ones are guaranteed that. And it was just such a big reminder, is we only have this time right now for what we want to move forward with. So what is our heart wanting us to do in this time? Not what are we supposed to be doing, but how do we want to be showing up? How do we want to be exploring the world or feeling it? How do we want to make a contribution to ourselves first, so then we can give that to other people?
I love that.
When a shaman calls or creates sacred space, they call upon the directions and the powers of the directions. And the directions are all connected in with an element, whether it be air, fire, water, or earth. Mm-hmm. And we work with not only the 4 directions, but we also work with above, below, and center. So the 7 sacred directions. And above is connecting to the Great Spirit or your Heavenly Father, Mother, God, force, energy. And it also connects you with the angels and those who assist you from above. And then below is when you connect with Mother Earth. And in the Incan shamanic traditions, they call her Pachamama, which I love saying that. Just saying I love that, it too. Pachamama. It just feels so good to even say that. But when you honor below, you're connecting with Mother Earth and everything that she has that is a part of her body or that she creates. So we honor the mineral kingdom. We honor the plant kingdom. We honor the animal kingdom when we call upon below. And then the seventh direction is your heart. It's like, if you think about the center of a wheel or the spokes of a wheel, it's like that center point that connects with all of those different directions.
And I love the symbolism of that too, because it goes back into showing that we are connected. Like our heart is that divine connection to spirit, to Mother Earth, to all of the elementals. It's connected to our gifts of spirit. It's connected to everything.
Yes.
And when we're fully connected in our heart center, we're able to fully be experiencing life here. Yes. And so when it's like, we align all of those areas above and below, and then we really bring that power back within ourselves to say, hey, I'm claiming all of this. I'm a part of this creation. Please give me the words or the energy or the space to like remember and move that into my space. But it kind of brings the power back within you because you are the universe.
Yes.
You are God's love. Everything is not separated. And so it kind of helps you bring that back into your space of like, I'm connected, I'm divine. And now what? Right.
Yeah. And there's so much sacred symbolism and the symbolism of the circle or sacred geometry talks about this. And you'll notice that the tribes that all the indigenous cultures, they would meet in circles and talk about the power of the circle, or you have the drum that's shaped like a circle, which connects you with your ancestors, with how you are connected with all things. So the circle represents that unification, us and our connection, that we're all one, that there is no separation between us and the divine, or us and our ancestors, the ones that are here and the ones that have crossed the veil. And it doesn't disconnect us from our connection to Mother Earth, or, and then we can never be separated from our divinity. That is the center of the circle. That it's like, even when shamans create sacred space and they move in a circle, they create the fire at the center of the circle, which represents your divine nature, that spark of spirit, the light that is within you. And so it's like when you do sacred ceremony and you burn things in that sacred fire, it's so symbolic. It's so powerful because it represents the transformative power that is inside of you, that at any moment you can recreate, that you can connect and you can transform into something else.
Honoring the space that connects us to the past. It connects us to the ancient ways, is because even in that space, like I'm learning a lot about Norse traditions. And even for Yule, what they did then, it was a ceremony. They had stuff then, and going into even like shamanic practices, is they also, like when people had big significant experiences, they had blessing ways, right? When a girl moves into having her moon time, instead of it being like, oh, good luck, it was a celebration. When a mom's about to have birth, to give labor, they have a ceremony then. Maybe when you're going through menopause, or when you're losing the death of a loved one, is like everyone gathered together and had this community and focus on this healing. And so honestly, even implementing ceremony at home connects us to our roots. It connects us to our ancestors. It connects us to the wisdom of the past. because they were here before us. They know a lot more than we know. So we can draw upon that wisdom. And that's part of what sacred ceremony does.
As we move forward and we heal this and we reclaim this wisdom and this connection, it's going to increase our connection with our creator, because we start seeing our creator and mirroring back to us and our friends and the people that we talk to. I look at you, Jen, and I see the creator. You look at me, you see the creator. We look at Mother Earth, we see the creator. We look at our animals, we look at the water, we look at the breeze moving through the trees, the leaves of the trees, we see the creator. We are so connected everywhere. And that is the beauty of what we're talking about, because it's that remembrance, it's that reconnection, that reclamation of the wisdom teachings that brought us back into us and our interconnection, to our creator of all things.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed, our recap, as well as some of our favorite clips from the last 12 weeks. We are so grateful for your support. Of course, if you want to leave any comments or anything like that, we would love to hear your feedback. We're just so blessed and so grateful for your support. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for watching Modern Sages. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We are so grateful for your support. We have an Instagram account as well as on Facebook. We have our podcast, which is the Modern Sages podcast.
And we are so excited to launch our Gifts of Spirit classes in our Modern Sages Mystery School.
Absolutely. Oh, we're so excited. So we're going to link the information below in the show notes for more information about our mystery school.